What are the best and worst matchups for your fantasy football wide receivers and tight ends? And what streaming defenses should you consider here in week 9 for fantasy football? It's time to break it down right here and right now as we begin another edition of Matchup Thursday, only on Locked On Fantasy Football.
Our Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer, and I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. Check out our Week 9 picks for the games of the week. We have 6 teams on bye, so a lot of players off this week that we'd normally look in fantasy, namely the big running backs here, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. So some of the big studs there, but really, the quarterbacks, wide receivers, the passing games are pretty intact here for the most part with the players that we rely upon the most. So we'll break down the wide receivers and tight ends, as well as give you some defensive recommendations here on today's show here as it's Matchup Thursday on Locked On Fantasy Football. So we turn our attention to the wide receiver, tight end, and defensive rankings, start, sit, advice. If you missed what we broke down with the quarterbacks and running backs, check it out there on our previous show, Matchup Wednesday, as we do this every week on Locked On Fantasy Football. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. We're free and available to you on all platforms. And this is a special crossover Thursday. That means our hosts across our 2 opposing teams with their podcasts will get together and break down the games. Crossover Thursday is presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so much fun. It's easy to play, no competing with other players. It's just you versus the projections available. It's a lot of fun. Again, you just have to pick 2 to 5 players. So they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. It can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks because it's such an easy game and fun to play and fun to win. And we know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. All right, a lot to get to. Wide receivers and tight ends are a busy position here for sure as we try to figure out who we want to get in our lineups. So let's get first in this segment, go through our must-starts. These are the wide receiver rankings here of players that should be in your lineup no matter what league and format you are in, whether it's a full half-point standard, however you're looking at it. We'll start with Tyreek Hill. We loved him last week. Jalen Waddle kind of stole his thunder, but Hill still had a massive game there against the Lions. It's a great matchup again this week against the Bears. They have a little bit of a banged-up secondary. They also have an inexperienced secondary with Kyler Gordon, the rookie, as well as Jaquan Brisker. He's a safety who tries to protect things over the top. But it's been the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle show. Their volume is just so high here. There are this offense. The Bears can be gashed against the run, so watch out for that if there's a positive game script. But the Dolphins know what they want to be. They want to throw to Hill and Waddle as much as possible to Tagovailoa, so he's going to get the ball out of his hands quickly. This Bears defense lost Roquan Smith, traded him to the Ravens, so one less piece there. Robert Quinn also not a Bear anymore. He's in Philadelphia, so I do like the Bears to win this game, maybe with a little bit more offense this week. I think it's a good offensive matchup for both teams. We've talked about that with Justin Fields and the running backs, and we'll get into Darnell Mooney as well this week. But looking at this, Tyreek Hill, I have number 1, and I have Jalen Waddle. He's a slouch. He's at number 7 this week. So 1 and 7 here for the Dolphins' dynamic duo in week number 9. Justin Jefferson is 2, not too shabby here against the Commanders secondary. Just lost William Jackson. Kendall Fuller not playing very well for the Commanders either. They're just a really bad defense. So the problem with Justin Jefferson is this Vikings offense just seems to be so good doing whatever it wants with Kirk Cousins, throw to KJ Osborne. We saw Johnny Munt had the touchdown, the blocking tight end. So we just want Jefferson to get a little bit more run here. It seems like he gets hot early in games. They forget about him. They spread the ball around there. So we want Jefferson to blow up, and he can do that against the Commanders coverage here this week. Cooper Kupp, we're going to watch this injury. The ankle injury is a little concerning there. So Allen Robinson would get a huge bump up for this Buccaneers matchup should Kupp not play, because they're going to have to target someone, really Robinson and Tyler Higbee. I do like this week, no matter what, here with Kupp drawing the attention. We know what he did in the playoffs against the Buccaneers. Cut that long pass, set up the game-winning field goal after the big comeback by Tom Brady and the Bucs there to help Matthew Stafford. And we know what he did in the Super Bowl, came up with the big catch, and the Rams won. So Cooper Kupp, again, he's a reliable guy there to put up points. The Rams are really regretting putting in Cooper Kupp in meaningless time against the 49ers last week. Ankle injury, I think it's very iffy he plays. They're very optimistic, I think, about it. It was a late game injury. It's an ankle. You want to preserve Cooper Kupp as well. You don't want to have him re-injure anything, and the Rams are completely lost because their offense is nothing right now without Cooper Kupp. So it's a catch-22. You need to win this game against the Buccaneers, but you also don't want to hurt Kupp a little bit more. So we'll see how it progresses here. We'll get a better indication. And the good thing about Sean McVay is pretty transparent about injuries, and we should have a defined solution here before 4:25 Eastern time on Sunday when the Rams kick off in Tampa. All right, Stephon Diggs, he's locked in, and he would slide up to number 3 should Kupp not play. At the Jets, they do have Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, 2 pretty good corners, the rookie and the former Seahawk there. They're playing well, but Stephon Diggs, this coverage sets up Diggs to be highly productive this week. I have Diggs at number 4. It's also very good for Gabe Davis. He doesn't have to face Jair Alexander this week, so maybe we'll get a little sauce on Diggs. That's going to help Davis on the other side there. He was close to making a couple big plays against the Packers. Didn't quite happen. He's a big play dependent, touchdown dependent kind of player, but when he does that, he explodes. So I think he'll rebound this week. So 2 top 12 Dolphins, and Hill at 7, Waddle at Hill at 1, Waddle at 7. I have Diggs at 4 and Gabe Davis at 11 this week. DeAndre Hopkins comes in next. The Seahawks secondary is actually pretty good now. They are getting very good play from the rookie Tariq Woolen. I really liked him in the draft, small school prospect. Of course, Pete Carroll has turned him into a mini young Richard Sherman here. So Hopkins, however, the volume, he's being lined up all over. The Seahawks are kind of weak in the slot, so that's going to be the place where they probably line Hopkins quite a bit this week. There, and then maybe move around Rondell Moore. That might not be good news for Moore as much, but whoever's in the slot, if they interchange some guys, can have some success there with Hopkins and the Cardinals this week. A.J. Brown on Thursday Night Football. Yep, he's locked in. He's at number 6. Devontae Adams, they do have a pretty good corner there in Jacksonville. Underrated is Tyson Campbell. Adams, this illness may have bothered him a little bit more. He did practice early in the week here. So something to monitor if he's really sick and he can't go out there and play. But really what was the sickness was Derek Carr just not being able to get the ball. The Derek Carr discomfort was really the issue there in New Orleans. So the Jaguars can create some of the same problems with their defense. Adams should bounce back, but don't be surprised to be underwhelmed. So with Carr in a slump here at this stage. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, they're also teammates in the top 12. Yep, Tyler Boyd moves up to number 10. So we thought, okay, maybe a little bit of Mike Thomas run in Cincinnati. No, it was Tyler Boyd basically slotting into a bigger role, slotting being the operative word there, becoming the number 2 target, with Higgins moving up to the number 1. So the natural progression of things with these wide receivers. Boyd, remember, was a big-time number 1 target for this team before Higgins and Chase were drafted. So he's used to that, playing inside outside. So Boyd comes in against that Panthers secondary, who, by the way, have J.C. Horn battling through an injury, as well as Dante Jackson. So J.C. Horn can be tough on Higgins a little bit. That can still be schemed open with Higgins working the slot at times. So Boyd and Higgins being interchangeable, much like Hopkins and Moore for Arizona. All right, we had Gabe Davis at 11. Christian Kirk comes in at a high number 12 this week. No Nate Hobbs. He's really the Raiders' best defensive back here in the slot. That's where he usually is. They're pretty weak on the outside here with some of the guys they put out. So really, Amik Robertson, he's not going to get it done here if Christian Kirk lines up outside at times here. So Christian Kirk, I really like this week. I will pound the table for Christian Kirk. We really liked Travis Etienne Jr. as well as Trevor Lawrence, and the premier trio, if you will, for the Jaguars is going to get it done against a putrid Raiders defense this week. Now, we look at the next guy on the list. It's Terry McLaurin. He's feeling it with Taylor Heineke. We love that change for Terry McLaurin if we have him on our rosters here. He's just getting unlocked here. Carson Wentz really struggled. It's also been coupled to the fact that Jahan Dotson, who was hot early working with Wentz, has got a hamstring injury. He's missed several games here, and it looks like he'll miss another one. So McLaurin and Curtis Samuel really dominating targets. We might get Logan Thomas back, but I don't think you're going to see a pivot there. You're going to see a lot more McLaurin and Samuel there, and there's going to be high volume because the Vikings are going to put up points there on the Commanders. Heineke, we talked about him being a streamer. A lot of his value tied to McLaurin here. So Terry McLaurin back where we want him, and he's scoring touchdowns, which is also important, and making big plays. All right, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin back-to-back. I have them about equal. The Rams do have Jalen Ramsey, but they're playing him in that odd role where he's all over the field there. So I look at Evans and Godwin having a rebound game this week. So teammates there. I also like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I'm being a little bit conservative with their numbers here because they play off each other. But, again, they could go off this week. So a lot of good teammates here that we're looking at. So we look at the Dolphins combination, the Bills combination, the Bengals, Buccaneers, Seahawks, a lot of dynamic duos. But Metcalf and Lockett, they get the secondary with Marco Wilson and Byron Murphy Jr. Really, the Seahawks secondary has been tougher than the Cardinals defense this year. So keep that in mind. And, again, they're locked in to Geno Smith as his clear number 2 targets. DJ Moore got going last week with PJ Walker. Looks like Walker will start again. The Bengals without Chidobe Awuzie. This is a big development here. The Bengals really struggled last week with Amari Cooper. They had been really good against number 1 receivers because of Awuzie, but Eli Apple is also banged up. So that opens up the secondary quite a bit here for the Panthers in this one. So Terrace Marshall, if you're in deeper leagues, you can look there. He had his career high game there as he opened up a little bit in the offense without Robbie Anderson with 87 receiving yards. Moore had that long miracle touchdown. Took off his helmet, cost them a win, but fantasy, it doesn't matter. It counted in fantasy big time. We liked that fact that PJ Walker did more for DJ Moore than Baker Mayfield was. So good matchup this week for DJ Moore. Must be in your lineup this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Packers are not bad on the outside with Jair Alexander, but you also figure with the trade of TJ Hawkinson, St. Brown has got to be a bigger deal here. Jameson Williams not quite ready to return. So the volume alone could be pretty high here as the Lions probably trail in this game beyond the Packers offense having a breakout game with Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. Chris Olave is in your lineup every week. I would really sincerely doubt that we'll see Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry anytime soon. He's a clear number 1 target here. Andy Dalton's been feeding him the ball as well as Alvin Kamara. So these are the guys here. Ravens secondary a little bit tough this season. They've played a little bit more zone defense there, but Olave has to be in your lineup every week, at least as a wide receiver 3, if not a wide receiver 2. Keenan Allen, oh boy. I don't know what you're going to get with Keenan Allen. I really want to go with him this week, but he might not be a go with the hamstring. So didn't look very optimistic here on the first couple of days of practice there. They do have a little while to get ready for the Falcons game, but Keenan Allen, again, I don't know if he's wanting to play out there or they're being very careful. I don't know, but it's been really brutal, and they don't have Mike Williams either with a high ankle sprain. So there's a receiver, of course, that you must play if Allen joins Williams on the shelf for sure. Devonta Smith, I'm playing. Look, it can be a little disappointing when A.J. Brown goes off. We've seen it when Smith goes off and Brown does a little bit. It's just hard. The Eagles won't need to throw a ton, we don't think, against the Texans. But that zone defense, you look at it, the cover 2, maybe protecting against the big plays from Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert can have some success. Jacoby Myers, if he's good to go, has to be in your lineup every week. The Colts not getting the same play from Kenny Moore in the slot. Stephon Gilmore, the former Patriot, is also banged up. So that's really good news for Jacoby Myers as Matt Jones returning has helped his value for sure. So those are the top 23 wide receivers that I would get in my lineup, minus Allen if he can't go there against the Falcons. And that looks 50-50 at best for him to do that. So unfortunate, but there's a receiver that you can plug and play in his place for sure in that matchup. All right, we will get into the wide receivers that we want to start and sit, those borderline guys that we'll look at next, and we'll close the show looking at the tight ends and streaming defenses that you need to consider, not consider here in week number 9. This was a big year for me. It was my 10-year wedding anniversary earlier in the year, this summer, and I needed to celebrate in the right way. And Blue Nile was making it for me with the milestone moment being a lot more memorable. And whether you're looking to pop the question, have a milestone to celebrate yourself, or want to make your love sparkle, Blue Nile can help make your celebrations even more memorable. As the original online jeweler, Blue Nile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. Blue Nile's helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Their easy online tools let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then help you handcraft a perfect one-of-a-kind engagement ring. Looking for a piece of fine jewelry to commemorate a special milestone but still having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging so you can keep it a surprise. They also offer overnight shipping if you're in a rush. Again, Blue Nile, the jewelry is fantastic, and they're going to take care of you on time in the right way with the right price. Make your moment sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use the code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's Blue Nile, BlueNile.com. Code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON. All right, it is time to continue the show and look at our start-sit advice for wide receivers here ahead of Week 9 in fantasy football. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes, local experts' insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And really, it's going to be exciting here tonight. We'll have the Thursday night football game between the Eagles and Texans, and we'll have in Philadelphia, the Astros and Phillies. So big major sports nights for both of those cities here as everyone's on pins and needles. Maybe a little bit more attention to that World Series game, but Eagles perfection also on the line here in Houston with Jalen Hurts and his homecoming tonight. So looking forward to that and breaking it down there on Locked On Sports Today. And we'll have a few takeaways from that game as well as we do Lineup Friday here with our DFS and injury report updates there for you on Friday show. All right, let's dive right back into the wide receivers here. So let's look at the borderline guys. Maybe guys you have question marks about. Juju Smith-Schuster feeling it. He's had 2 big games in a row here for the Chiefs against the Titans secondary. They're pretty bad here. Marquez Valdes-Scantling also playable in deeper leagues as a deep shot play there and maybe a DFS tournament play. But Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the hyphenates there for the Chiefs getting it done as their primary receivers. We're going to have to wait a little bit for Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and some of those other guys. Mecole Hardman was a bit fluky with his production in the previous game. So Juju, Marquez, go with them here. I would go with Juju as a wide receiver 2, Marquez Valdes-Scantling more as a wide receiver 4 or a flex play in deeper leagues. I love Adam Thielen this week. Again, they have TJ Hawkinson, so maybe not running the full routes there and they're fully indoctrined into the offense. So he still might be out there, and that's going to create some work in the middle of the field. KJ Osborne, we know, has also got some run and looked pretty good in their 11 personnel for Kevin O'Connell. But, yeah, you can look at Osborne, again, kind of like MVS in deeper leagues there. But Thielen I do like as a wide receiver 3 this week. I think he scores. The Commanders do struggle with that type of receiver more. And I think he also makes a big play downfield of playing off Jefferson. So Adam Thielen, the knee injury was a little bit of an issue, but it turned out to be just a bruise. He's practicing in full. He's good to go. We'll watch his teammate Allen Lazard, but Romeo Doubs could have a really big role against the Lions again. Nice game last week with a pretty touchdown catch. So Aaron Rodgers had to go right back to the well, and he's talked about it a little bit. He has no choice. There's no Chase Claypool, nobody like that. It's coming. Here, he's going to go and play with these guys. So Allen Lazard, promising that he did get a limited practice in with the shoulder injury. So Lazard and Doubs could be out there. It doesn't matter. I'm going to play Doubs alone. I like him a little bit more in that case. But if Lazard plays, you're playing both of those guys as well this week. So do like the matchup. I think Aaron Rodgers has another 2-touchdown game at least here. Big game also for Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So I think this is an ultimate get-well game for all things Packers this week. Curtis Samuel said we like Terry McLaurin, and I do like it. The Vikings can give up numbers here. They do have a Cameron Dantzler battling a little bit of an injury. Patrick Peterson probably going to be slowed down in that matchup with McLaurin. So Samuel keep going here. And he's getting good usage in the running game, by the way, playing off Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson Jr. All right, now we talked about Chase Claypool not going to the Packers. He did go to the Bears. There's a little bit of misconception here that everyone thinks, okay, Chase Claypool is a number 1. He's never been a number 1 for the Steelers. I mean, Deontay Johnson is the number 1. Mooney is the guy that's more like the number one. He's just needed some help here. And he operated like that last year. I think people forget that Allen Robinson was not a factor at all. And Mooney was very productive last year, even in the mess of the offense between Fields and Dalton and Matt Nagy and all that mess. So Mooney is a very talented receiver. He just has not had help in the coverage and deep, and they can use him a little bit more versatile now with Claypool being a deep threat. So I'm not sure how many snaps Claypool's going to get right away. He was practicing right away for Chicago. He'll be out there, but I think you'll see still a little bit Equanimeous St. Brown, Dante Pettis. They're outside in the slot. But Mooney, I do really like this week. Xavier Howard, a little bit banged up, and he'll play through it. But the Dolphins can give up some stuff downfield here. We saw last week that happened. A little bit of Khalif Raymond got free behind the Dolphins secondary. So Darnell Mooney, they can move around a little bit. Justin Fields playing much better. The matchup is good enough at home this week. Rondell Moore, the slot will help him a little bit, but how much will he go outside? I think they need to get more in the slot to really be productive, but I'm going to call it here. He'll be pretty good here. The volume, the Seahawks should put up some numbers here, and that's going to help Kyler Murray. Josh Palmer is the guy we're circling here. DeAndre Carter as well. Should we have Allen and Williams miss the game, but Palmer should get plenty of run. He's in kind of that Williams role. So I do like Palmer quite a bit. The Falcons secondary without A.J. Terrell, they're already down the former Charger Casey Hayward in the secondary. So really love that matchup. We saw what DJ Moore and looking at Terrace Marshall did last week against that Falcons secondary. All right, let's look at Devin Duvernay. Rashad Bateman is going to miss the game for sure with the foot injury. So aggravated that injury there. Not good news. The Buccaneers, a big washout season that could have been big for Bateman here as we started early. Duvernay works the slot. That's how you beat the Saints. Also, we'll see about Marshawn Lattimore returning. Paulson Adebo, their other corner, has been playing through a knee injury. Allen Robinson, we really like him if Cooper Kupp's out. If Kupp does play, the secondary, Carlton Davis and others have been struggling here, and we saw the matchup heat up. I think he could have had a big game last week, and they just didn't stick with that there with the Rams. So they're going to have to throw the ball quite a bit against the Buccaneers with a high volume. So I do like Allen Robinson quite a bit this week, especially if Kupp's out. He automatically elevates to a wide receiver 2 as a wide receiver 3 right now with Kupp in there. So this is the key. Don't give up on players like Mooney, Robinson. It's very frustrating. You just have to kind of diversify your portfolio, wait for some guys to come on strong later. Some guys get off to a hot start and disappear. So that's what you really have to look at there in your lineups this week. So let's look at the weaker starts here at wide receiver. Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce. Paris Campbell suddenly getting more run in the Matt Ryan and Ellinger games the past 2 weeks. That's because they're going short passing game. It's hard to get it downfield to Pittman or Pierce. I know Ellinger took a few shots. He has a big arm. It is the Patriots. They do have one really good corner in Jack Jones. They put him inside and outside here. They don't have a lot at corner there. They do have Miles Bryant, who can struggle inside. So Pittman might have a little bit of success, but I just don't like the front end of it with Ellinger against Bill Belichick. So I'm going to fade all the Colts this week, Pittman, Pierce, and Campbell. Drake London, I want to get him in there, but he's just not getting the run. I mean, you look at Marcus Mariota, he's getting Kyle Pitts warmed up. He's got Olamide Zaccheaus and Damiere Byrd making big plays, but not going to get a lot here from Drake London, the way they're throwing. Same thing with this other rookie first rounder I like, Garrett Wilson. It was a nice week for him last week, but against the Bills, a much tougher matchup this week. So not going with Garrett Wilson. Hunter Renfrow is basically done nothing. He's fallen off the radar. This is kind of disturbing because Derek Carr used to at least trust Renfrow and in the slot and all that, but especially with Darren Waller not playing at tight end, it's been really weird. It's almost like Renfrow is, again, being that jilted guy there, as we've seen Devontae Adams. It's like the old friend is here, so the new friend is pushed off to the side here. So that's tough here, and we've seen it happen in high school and college. So Renfrow needs to get going. I just don't think it happens against the Jaguars this week. Zay Jones is so tempting. I'm going to tell you to play Zay Jones this week. I just don't know what volume he's going to get in relation to Marvin Jones playing off Kirk. Kirk can dominate this game. I just don't trust Jones getting enough targets. It's a run-heavy team, after all, with the Jaguars. So that's my problem. Terrace Marshall, if you need him, it's okay. I just think it's not a matchup where I feel great about P.J. Walker up front. So, again, Marshall, I mentioned deeper leagues, it's okay to think about him, but just be careful here this week as again, the volume could be limited and they could go run heavy in this game to try to keep Joe Burrow off the field. So it's hard to sustain 2 receivers in this Panthers offense here and do it 2 weeks in a row. That's a whole different story as well. All right, there you have it. Those are the starts, sits there on the borderline players for you on Locked On Fantasy Football. We do have to break down the tight ends and defenses here and what to do with them here with our active players, non-bye week players for week number 9. Before we do that, I got to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. That's right, NBA is in full swing. College basketball is about to rev up here. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. As always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, live betting, and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. Yeah, it's great to have basketball and hockey in the mix. We have another sports equinox. Thanks to the rain out in the World Series, we have baseball tonight there as well. So MLB is in the mix, MMA, boxing, golf, as well as NFL, NBA, college football, all the good stuff there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check out on all your favorite games and events only at BetOnline. Head to the website today. Use a mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, it is time to close the show. We're going to focus on the tight end ranking, start, sit advice, as well as what you should do with your defenses this week. Travis Kelce comes back into the mix. Welcome, Travis Kelce, back into the pool of players. Versus the Titans, they're tough against the tight end. We don't care. Travis Kelce blows up those matchups. We saw that against the Bills. Mark Andrews, if he's playing, watch the shoulder injury, wasn't considered serious. We'll get a better indication. They are playing on Monday night, so it gives them an extra day to heal, especially coming off a Thursday night game. So I think it's Andrews, or you can plug in Isaiah Likely, pick him off the waiver wire, handcuff Andrews right now if he's still available. Zach Ertz, the Seahawks, very good at the corners, but kind of weak covering tight ends here. So Zach Ertz, good game last week, kind of saved by the touchdown, but they'll have to use him a little bit more this week based on the way the corners play in Seattle. Dallas Goedert tonight against the Texans. Again, cover 2 shell. They've been pretty good against tight ends overall because teams are just running down their throat, but Goddard can slip out of blocking here and score a touchdown playing off Miles Sanders. Kyle Pitts, he's back. He's back, so we're going to trust him as much as we can. I think Arthur Smith heard the pleas and complaints to get this guy the ball, and we did well with Marcus Mariota last week of 5 for 80 and a touchdown in a tough matchup against the Panthers. The Chargers are a very favorable matchup this week. The Jaguars, Evan Engram, we just can't trust Darren Waller to stay healthy in that game. So on the other side, Evan Engram looked pretty good, caught a nice touchdown pass from Trevor Lawrence in London against the Broncos last week. So Evan Engram starting to feel a little bit more and kind of becoming that really second reliable target after Christian Kirk and Travis Etienne, really, for the Jaguars. And looking at that same Falcons-Chargers game, Gerald Everett, the Falcons really struggled to cover against the tight end. So it's not just wide receivers. Plus, again, if you're down Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, you're going to have to throw to more people if you're Justin Herbert. So Herbert's going to make it work with Palmer. DeAndre Carter, Everett should be in that mix as a top 3, as well as Austin Eckler out of the backfield catching passes. So, again, Engram and Everett, they've been pretty nice. They've been disappointing in the past as we liked them before, but now they've really come through in a year where there hasn't been a lot of reliability here at tight end. Now, let's go here to the Rams. And Cooper Kupp, we talked about him missing the game. Tyler Higbee has a good matchup. The Buccaneers have really struggled there covering tight ends this season. Very uncharacteristic with Devin White and Lavonte David, but it's true. The numbers back that up here. So Tyler Higbee has a neck injury there that he's going to battle through and hopefully play with there, but that would be another reason like Allen Robinson. Van Jefferson also a little bit banged up. So if Higbee and Kupp miss, then you can look at a little bit of Ben Skowronek to have a little bit of a bigger role against the Buccaneers. Robert Tonyan, we saw Mr. Mike Gesicki score a touchdown there against the Lions. The Lions give up plenty against the tight end. Tonyan just missed a touchdown. It was a penalty there that negated against the Bills, and that was a tough matchup, and Tonyan got involved. Again, if the receivers are coming back, it might hurt Tunyan's volume there, but always a good chance for a touchdown. Cole Kmet scored a touchdown for the first time since 2020 in Dallas. The Dolphins do give up quite a bit to the tight end, so I think Cole Kmet will get a little bit more run here. And Hunter Henry, the Patriots don't throw to him as much as they should, I think, but Mac Jones should get it going. Keep in mind, this matchup was great for Hunter Henry last year. I know it was the last year, a little bit different, but he just racked up the touchdowns. The Patriots upset the Colts in Indianapolis. So do like Hunter Henry this week at home against that same team, the Colts. Well, let's look at the weaker starts at tight end this week. TJ Hawkinson has moved teams in the same division, the NFC North. He's playing at the Commanders here. And really, I don't know how many snaps he's going to get. New team making that transition. It's an 11 personnel team. Let's wait and see here with Hawkinson. And the Commanders are pretty decent against the tight end as well. Taysom Hill, you got to look at this matchup in a different way. I know the Ravens have given it up against the tight end, but they added Roquan Smith here. He should be up to speed with Patrick Queen. A lot of speed in the middle of that run defense. Not trusting Taysom Hill to get it done on the ground or through the air if he does that, or through the air passing either this year or this week, I should say, against the Ravens on Monday night. Hayden Hurst, the Panthers are typically good against the tight end. I know Kyle Pitts broke free a little bit last week, but I would not play Hayden Hurst. Dawson Knox, touchdown dependent. Don't like him against the Jets. Pretty good there. Mike Gesicki, don't like him. Chicago, I think they're going to attack their corners a little bit more. There, I know Smith not being there helps a little bit, but they do also have Eddie Jackson to cover at safety. So not feeling with Gesicki. Tyler Conklin had 2 touchdowns last week. Not feeling it to Bills, who kept Tunyon out of the end zone after all with that penalty. And he had Cade Otton. What a disappointment. Cameron Braid also could be back this week. Got a limited practice in with the neck injury. So not going to the Rams. Are actually very good at covering the tight end. So don't get too deep or cute. Player principles here at tight end. There's more of them than you think, as we just mentioned, breaking down the rankings and start set advice. Now, let's close looking at the defenses, shall we? All right, here are the defenses that you definitely want to have in your lineups this week. That would be the Eagles against Davis Mills, and the Texans tonight. Bills playing at the Jets and the struggling Zach Wilson. Patriots against Sam Ehlinger, young quarterback, Bill Belichick at home. We love it. Buccaneers at home versus Matthew Stafford, maybe without Cooper Kupp. Some sacks and takeaways could be in the offing here. Bengals at home against the Panthers. P.J. Walker threw a pick 6 to the Falcons last week on a tipped ball. And the Colts at the Patriots against Mac Jones. The Colts got Shaquille Leonard back. Pretty good performance in terms of allowing the points last week. So if you need the Colts, they're good play this week in a lower scoring game. Jaguars at home against the Raiders. Look, I'm not chasing the Saints points. I think they have the guys to make it tough on Derek Carr. Looking at their guys, Josh Allen, the rookie Trayvon Walker, the rookie Devin Lloyd. Some turnovers could be in the offing there. Chiefs at home, either against a Ryan Tannehill banged up player or a rookie Malik Willis at home. So I do like the Chiefs quite a bit. They're going to be run heavy, the Titans, but eventually they're going to have to put the ball in the air. Vikings, look, Tyler Heineke can put up numbers, and that's true, but they can make some plays also with a high volume. So it's very interesting. It's a dichotomy of where you want your team that you're playing to pass quite a bit there. So you have those opportunities for where the turnovers come, because we know that fumbles and that off the running game are a little bit tough. So it's a little bit of a thing that you want your team to be ahead and give up some in the passing game so you can get those big plays with sacks and takeaways based on your scoring system. Ravens, I also feel them. Andy Dalton in primetime. We know what happened last time. 2 pick 6s against the Cardinals there. This one's at home, but Andy Dalton primetime record is terrible. Rams, you're looking at them at the Buccaneers this week. Again, the GOAT is struggling, and they can get some plays there, sacks there against that line, especially in the interior where Aaron Donald can rule. And you're looking at the Packers there. Jared Goff really struggling this week, and that's a good way to go. All right, let's go to the weaker starts. I told you about I don't like the matchup here for Justin Fields, Dolphins there in that matchup. So I just don't like it at all. So I'm not going to go with the Dolphins at all. Saints at home against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, no. Chargers, absolutely not. The Falcons team is putting it together. Could get Cordell Patterson. We'll see about him this week. If not, even so, the Falcons really protecting the ball. Cardinals, Seahawks, both of those teams don't go after it. Here, the Cardinals have had some big plays the last 2 weeks here, but that doesn't happen against the Seahawks. They're pretty protective against the ball. The Seahawks do have a pretty good reality defense, but in terms of fantasy defense, you can't go there. On the road, by the way, against the Cardinals this week. So those are the start sits there for defense and tight end for you ahead of week number 9 here on Locked On Fantasy Football. So thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories today is plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this is Vinnie Iyer with another Matchup Thursday, breaking down the wide receiver, tight end, defense rankings. We'll close the week tomorrow looking at our DFS and injury report here for week number 9, Sunday and Monday games there for you. Good luck if you got Eagles, Texans tonight. We'll catch you tomorrow.